It's the one only Sputnik, bringing you guys another gameplay commentary. This is Ellis Goes Online, and if my voice sounds a little sexy, I have a cold, and you know, that's funny. Anyway, this most likely will be a pretty long commentary, and this is about my journey and how I've adapted to the various changes in ESO. And these clips kind of mirror what I will be discussing. Some of these clips are very old. Most of the clips care. I'm in medium armor. I used to rock, 5 medium, 2 heavies. Heavy in the chest and heavy in the legs. And, I'm playing Nightblade. I'm playing my old school stamina DK just to, combat Sorks at the time during 1.6. That's what I used to combat these Sorks. Used to use my wings to just and Wrecking Blow at that time. But anyway, the point of this video is to I kind of mentioned it already, just to show my journey and how I've adapted. But there's a little side note to that. Recently, I made 2 videos about the state of PvP and how players should adapt to the current play style in Cyrodiil. And I was specifically targeting the above average players, the ones that I think are elite players. And some of them took offense to it. And look, it's understandable. It's understandable that some of them might. And, instead of them viewing what I was saying from a holistic approach, they kind of singled out a particular thing that they focus on, right? They're biased towards a particular class. And look, you can't really fault them for that. You invest a certain amount of time into a class. You might have a class as a main, and then when someone says something about the class that you truly like, by default, by nature, you'll kind of lash out at it, and it's fine. It's no real big issue for me. The only thing I kind of find puzzling, right? It's kind of perplexing to me that players want to rewrite history. Right. All of a sudden now these players are solo small group players. Right? They speak for the solo and small group players. And I think that's a bit disingenuous. I from day one I've been a solo player. Right? From day one I've been dealing with these things. I've been dealing with the trials and tribulations of Cyrodiil and being outnumbered. And of course, that's something I choose to do. So I have to take the good and the bad with it, right? And what I've noticed, and there's so much stuff to go through, but I'll try to keep everything in a cohesive and succinct kind of manner. But what I've noticed is that every time a player calls for a particular thing, especially like a nerf in ESO, ZeniMax Online Studios, they do an exponential approach to it, right? Instead of them having just a moderate approach to it, they will nerf it into the ground. They will completely destroy the skill. In the past, proximity detonation used to be the bread and butter for a lot of Magicka Templars and Magicka DKs, and they nerfed that thing into the ground, where no one uses it anymore, with an exception of Bomb Blades. They no longer use it, and that's ZeniMax just nerfing the skill into the ground. I don't get that. And then you have to understand, these players, even though they play the game, that does not mean they're equipped to make practical and intelligent decisions, right? similar to the commentary I made, and people are just up in arms about the fact that you need to adapt. I've adapted, right? When Magic or Sorcerer were top tier and you had to fight them, I went to play a Stam DK. That was my way to combat them. That was my way to deal with their frags. That was my way to prevent their burst, right? And that was my way of adapting. That was my way of dealing with the changes. When, everyone was just all smitten with Stamina DK in 1.7, I was playing Magic and Nightblade. Right? That's what I was playing. And what I mean by Stamina DK, I meant the sword and board heavy armor Stamina DK. Right? Shout out to Talented Noob. An original player, and a player who really played heavy before a lot of players were playing it and was successful at that. Sometimes people forget like those players, and they forget what those players kind of added to the game. And yeah, so but back to what I was saying. So I was playing Nightblade. I was still playing medium armor Nightblade solo in these outnumbered situations and finding ways to be successful. Right? I couldn't deal with the massive amount of groups in Cyrodiil, so I played in Imperial City. And Imperial City was lively. Imperial City was a place that you can get small scale, you can get close quarters PvP and still be successful, because in open world, there's so much open space that there's not a lot of places for you to kite or use your terrain to your advantage, and so players would just lock you down and just dump ults on you. In Imperial City, that was not necessarily the case, because you had these close quarter engagements, and you can really use your environment to your advantage. However, that was done away with. I won't mention the YouTuber who had a major role to play in that. They suggested, hey, add a respawn delay to players in Imperial City, add capture points. And for some strange reason, ZeniMax listened to these players. And to me, that's the main reason why Imperial City is the way it is now, a ghost town. And it's a ghost town. And BGs will continue to be a ghost town with the fact that they're going back to no CP. I know I'm going off on a slight tangent here, but it will continue to be a ghost town because players don't want to be hindered in any particular way if they've invested time into the game. And there's a progression system called CP. Now all of a sudden it has to be changed. And that's why you won't see a lot of players playing it. What players say they want and what they actually want are two different things. Just keep that in mind when you hear a player say something. Well, this is how I think it should be, but in reality, it's not necessarily what they want. They want to have this perception of what they want, and then in reality, they're doing opposite. Like you'll look at some players that upload YouTube videos. You would swear that these players are like small group solo players, but in reality, and look, there's nothing wrong with being in a massive group or a non-small group. There's nothing wrong with that, but just don't portray yourself to be that person, because, like I said, it's disingenuous and it creates this false perception of what you're not, right? But let's continue. So in Imperial City, which was like my safe haven, right, where I can go and get small scale PvP, was completely did away with. And players forget that the reason Imperial City was really good, and I know it sounds kind of like narrow-minded to say it in that kind of way, was because it had this TDM atmosphere to it. It's, it's me versus you. I can instantly get back into fight and let's go. I don't think players cared about AP in Imperial City. It was like, who cared about capture points, right? Who cared about, let's get some AP for this. What players didn't want to happen is that you would continue to get farmed for it. So I was okay with ZeniMax, implementing, if you've killed a person more than once, you don't get the same AP from them, right? You get a lowered amount, and I think that was balanced. I don't think that was bad in any particular way. That was a decent adjustment. But they went overboard, right? They did the exponential change. They added capture points and added a spawn delay, and that just killed Imperial City. Imperial City had two parts to it. The sewers were mainly for PvE players who just wanted to farm, or players who just wanted to grind to max level. And above the sewers, you had players who were PvPing, players who were just in arena, just getting busy, doing all the things that they enjoy to do, which is kill other players and respawn. And that was no longer the case. And ZeniMax listened to a few influential players in the community, and they made, they did that. And that's one of the main reasons to me why Imperial City is a ghost town. Players disagree with me, but I stand by that, right? So I then, at that time, I was playing Nightblade, and I was enjoying Nightblade. I think I wasn't bored of it, but I've always said this, even though I play Nightblade at a high level, it's a very easy class for me. If some players want to add some kind of, high level or some high skill to the spammable DPS and incapacitating strike, then do so. But it's the same as adding some skill to checkers, right? As much as you want to put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Famous statement from Sarah Palin. It's still a pig, right? Right? There's no skill or effort behind it. And obviously some players feel a certain way about that because they find that a Magic and Nightblade, a Stamina Nightblade, Stamina Nightblade is some like squishy, high damage class, when in fact I've pretty much dispelled that. Let's not forget, during the proc set era, and I was playing a heavy armor Argonian Nightblade at that time. You know what they said to me? Go look at the comments, because what I'll do is I'll put the link to the video, to the build video, in the description below. Go look at the comments in those on that video and see what they were saying. Despotic? You're playing a heavy armor Argonian Shacklebreaker? Why are you using Shacklebreaker? There's no damage. No procs. That's when everyone and their mother was using proc sets, right? Right. That's when, shout out to King of Games. That's when they were using, That's when Stamina Sork were really good, and a lot of players played it. And subsequently, it's been nerfed to the ground. Like I said, ZeniMax, when they do nerfs, man, it's an exponential thing. They don't believe in in moderation. They will nerf you into the ground. But let's continue. So I posted that Argonian build, and it was like, Argonian? Why are you using Argonian? And I was testing it. I've always gone for sustain and survivability, and so when I went there, I knew my combos as a Nightblade. I knew what I could do. And some of these clips you'll notice, like this clip here that I've posted, is to show you that animation canceling on a Nightblade it takes no effort. It's checkers. It's not chess. There's nothing special about it. And and you have to pick and choose when you animation cancel. Right? In this instance, there are not a lot of people attacking me, but when 6 or 7 people are attacking you, or even 3 or 4, if you animation cancel, you're taking hit, especially you're holding block. Because if you're swap canceling, that makes absolutely no sense unless you're swapping to go to another skill on your offensive bar. You're taking hits to your stamina. So that's why I've made not countless, like maybe 2 or 3 videos as to why you should not be animation canceling every skill. You should, pick and choose when you should or should not do it. And animation canceling is not the end all and be all to skill. Skill is a lot more, man. It's a lot more. But anyway, I don't want to like get tunnel vision into that kind of discussion. But this clip right here is mainly just to show like how animation canceling is nothing on a Nightblade. All right, so when I posted that Nightblade build, everyone was like, "Despotic, heavy armor, Nightblade. Why don't you play medium and proc set? Velium Viper, right? Or Celine's." Go look back. Go to these various channels who are now, they're holier than thou. Right? I was playing that. And I was very successful. I only lost 1 time on that build. 1 time on that build. And it was to another Nightblade. Very good Nightblade. I forgot his name. Very good Nightblade. And I was walking other Nightblades down. Right? They had to play the keep away game with me as a Nightblade. I was walking these guys down. Right? They had to play the keep away. They had to play the roly poly dodge and cloak. I don't have an issue with that. And anyone that's fought me on my Nightblades, you know exactly what it is that I'm referring to. I played people in a way where it was just a different way to play Nightblade. It was just it was just a different way to play it. But I got bored of the class and I decided to do something else. All right, so let's continue. So 1.7 is there. People are using sword and board, DK, and just running through things because they made the changes to battle. I forgot what it's called, man. I can't believe I'm forgetting. So they made the change, and now your shields are like halved, and your healing is halved, and you saw an exodus of Sorks because the not so good ones couldn't really deal with the change. Like I said, ZeniMax does like its exponential nerfs. That's why it's always best not to kind of advocate for them, like advocate for a nerf, because it becomes problematic. And so a lot of Sorks left. And I was playing Nightblade at that time. And, I had to contend with all of the sword and board DKs in heavy armor with 600 stamina recovery. Did I say, well, go ahead and nerf heavy? No. Did I say, I can't stand this? You'll notice at that time I was doing a lot of dueling in Imperial City. And I was dueling with a sword and board Nightblade. And so I was dueling like Anthony, Mike, and I was dueling so many people there. That's the only person I kind of remember. But I was dueling a lot of the top tier players. And I wasn't good at dueling at that time. And I really needed to learn, because I think dueling is a very important part in 1vxing and being in outnumbered situations, because what you want to ultimately do is get it to a place where you feel comfortable fighting two players, and even though you have 4 or 5 remaining players attempting to kill you, you want to get into a small space where you can add burst damage. That's why burst damage is so important when you're in an outnumbered situation. That's why I'm a fan of burst, and that's why combos are important. Sustained damage is for players in groups. If you're in a massive group, you should focus on sustained damage, not burst. If you are in an outnumbered situation, your only way to kill players is to hit them with burst, and that comes by way of combos. So I was fighting these guys, and I went there dueling just to get better. That's my way of adapting, because then I realized that even though I'm fighting these guys toe to toe and we're going at it, they had that advantage not only in the setup they had, but also in the experience when it comes to dueling. And so I went into arena in Imperial City, and I just started dueling, right? And the one thing about me is that I believe failure is a very important part of progression. You fail, you look at your failure, and you become better, right? That's why anyone that runs into me in Cyrodiil, they know the kind of person I am. As soon as you jump, I'm ready to fight, right? Because I'm not afraid to lose. I'm afraid of winning and not learning anything from it. And that's how I've always been, not only in the game, but in real life, man. I've had so many failures in life, so many setbacks, so many instances where you feel as if, you're not good enough. But did I let that just, keep me stagnant, right? Not keep moving forward? Absolutely not. That's not the kind of person I am. So I took it as a challenge, and I'm like, okay, these players are using this. I need to do this to get better. I need to work on my rotation. I need to work on my in and out, my disengage, engage game. I need to work on my burst. I need to work on, getting the best gear I can get. I need to work on every aspect of my game while being the person I am, right? I don't want to become jaded in any game that I play. I've always said this. I enjoy ESO. I think ESO is an amazing game. And I've always been hit with these changes, and I've adapted to the changes. Only now I think players are having issues because ZeniMax hit their bottom line. Like that, people don't understand this, but the change to heavy by way of not being able to use shuffle is a big impediment to a lot of players, right? A lot of players who, and I don't think they should have made the change, right? Some players are just not suited for making that change of like, hey, don't play this class anymore, play another class. Some players are just not, they can't adapt in that way. They have this kind of, myopic way of thinking. If it doesn't work with this class, I can't do it on any other class. And I've always tried to stay clear of that. And that's a big issue, man. Uh, that's why you'll see a lot of sword and board DKs, and you can't fault them for that because they're dealing with these massive groups, and a lot of players keep forgetting that when I'm speaking from a standpoint of being solo, 100%. I don't have the luxury of being able to be in a group of 4 or 5 players. I don't have that luxury, right? And that's by choice. I just want to put that out there. It's by choice, and that's something I have to deal with. But that shuffle was a major nerf, man, to heavy. And now you see Warden taking, you see a lot of Wardens because they can somewhat bypass that shuffle issue, right? They have enough in their kit to be to be successful without shuffle, and that's great. I'm playing a Magic Templar currently, and that's because I'm bored of a DK. I'm bored of a Nightblade. I don't think I'm at that level where I can play a ranged Magic and Nightblade. I really love the Nightblade class, but I just don't think I'm at that level to play it that way. And the reason I'm successful on a Magic Templar is because it's a melee build, right? I play Magic Templar different. If you look at other players playing Magic Templar, and when I posted my build video, players were saying, "Why are you using Toppling Charge? Why aren't you using Dawnbreaker? Why aren't you using, the Vampire CC?" And I stood by what I say now. My playstyle is not suited for that. I want to be in Cyrodiil. You have to adapt, and I keep saying this. You have to be mobile. You can't stand there in some kind of stationary way and assume that these players won't just drop you. You don't have that luxury at all. They, by default, have the strength in numbers, right? So when I speak and when I do a commentary and I say the state of PvP, I'm pointing this out from a solo perspective. And if you, as a person who plays in a group of 90 or more % of the time, have an issue with me stating it from 100% of the time playing in a solo, then you should understand the stuff I go through, right? At the end of the day, I stand by my words. I stand by what I say. And it's not as if I'm from the outside looking in. I'm speaking as a person who's been playing this game day one solo, right? I like I said before, I don't want to rewrite history, and all of a sudden now that's as if I'm all of a sudden now I come to you and I'm speaking in terms of like these massive groups and this is what these groups should have and it's not right. That would be disingenuous, right? That would be such a stretch for me to say that. And then you would look at my content and say, why is this person, even though you have a right to voice your opinion, you shouldn't voice the opinion as if you've been in that situation. You should say, look, you can say whatever you want, man. At the end of the day, this is a game. And you have to view it as such, and it shouldn't even be taken that seriously. But I stand by my words, right? I believe that you have to adapt, and I've adapted, and it's been successful for me. I don't know what class I'm playing next. I think the class would either be a Magic DK or a Stamina Warden. I'm getting somewhat bored of my Magic Templar. And that's just the normal state for me, man. That's the wonderful thing about my channel, my content, and the person I am. I play different classes, right? I'm not pigeonholed into like one class, right? So when I'm speaking for a class, I'm speaking from a standpoint of being, objective and neutral. And so I can say things about a class and still play the class and play it effectively. Some players can't do that. Hopefully this video comes across in a positive light, because it's never been my intention to be negative. I think this is a great game, and it's kind of sad that a lot of these good players are leaving. And some of it has to do with their own, you know, issues and how they view this game, and a lot of it has to do with just ZeniMax being exponentially nerf heavy. Anyway, it's the one only Despotic. Deuces.